everyone. Welcome to the Elite Real Estate Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Sam Popple, along with my co-host and best friend, William McClellan. What's going on, Will?
What's happening, Sam? How we doing? Let's get after it today.
Dude, it's going to be a great day today. We got a friend of mine, Josh LeGare, coming on. Josh is a really cool dude. I actually just found out that he was in the Army for 11 years as an Army Ranger. But the things I did know about him is that he's a superstar realtor. He's an Airbnb superhost. He loves his French Bulldog, just like I love my Bully Gaines. And then he also scaled to 6 units within 3 years, and he now has 16 units under management as an Airbnb host. So without further ado, let's go on, Josh.
Awesome.
What's going on, guys?
Hey, man, how are you doing today?
Doing great. Excited to be here. I appreciate the invite.
Oh, dude. Yeah. Well, like I said, we're ready for you to tell us and tell our guests how we can all be super hosts. Because you definitely know how to set it up. Well, we see the lighted sign and the green walls behind you, so we know you're in one of your spots.
Yeah, and this is the one that I live in that I'm getting ready to market as a whole house. It's just that's my personal item. I would never leave that in an Airbnb. Just FYI. But yeah, it's pretty much ready to move out here around Christmas time.
Okay, awesome.
All right. Yeah.
Well, at the end, we'll definitely have to tell everyone your information so they can nab up that spot.
Yeah, absolutely. Be happy to share.
Where is that one?
This one's in Navarre.
In Navarre, okay. And how long you been in there?
So it's been 10 months. 10 months now.
Sweet.
I try to buy every Christmas. It's like kind of like my gift to myself.
That's a good gift. I love it. I love it.
No one's shopping, everyone's traveling. So I'm like, yeah, this is my time to, pick and choose which property I want. So it's pretty awesome.
Well, talking about that, do you find that you can find some pretty good deals when it's kind of a lull time in the market because people are preoccupied with other things, or
yeah, just in general,
or do you just like giving presents to yourself?
Yeah, I mean both, but towards this time of year, like everyone's traveling, seeing family, saving up for Christmas gifts or, things of that nature. So just generally speaking, it's a slower time of year. So that's when it just so happened that's when I bought, my first primary. And so I just happened to do that from,
stayed on cycle. I think you mentioned and kind of laid out there for the viewers before we all get in your background that you buy one a year so you can get that low down payment, to nab up the asset, live in it for a year, and then after that it becomes a rental, correct?
Yeah. Little to no money down, and then you get a cheaper interest rate, and then and you live in it for a year, and then you move out. So it's a pretty good hack.
Yeah, it's a great hack. So tell the listeners.
Done that with his last house, and then I've done that with a couple. So anyway, but go ahead, Will. Sorry to cut you off, man.
No worries. No, just to help some of the listeners, enlighten them on why that's a good strategy and how you're getting little to no money down and kind of why you decided to do that.
Yeah, there's different types of loans. If you're a veteran, a lot of veterans think like, all right, I'm PCSing to an area. I'm not going to live here forever. Maybe they plan to move home, but they're thinking smaller. I did, and so you can buy at every single duty station with no money down, right? There's limits to that. And obviously they got to factor in your credit score and things like that. But, if you buy these are little pockets of money, right? Where you can, accrue some equity appreciation over time, even some rents, and then you can rent it out to your military buddies. So what I do is I'm a single guy, and, I put the rooms on Airbnb. So I room hack is what I call it instead of house hacking. And each room is individually rented out. The common spaces are shared. So it's different, but it's something I learned over in Europe while I was stationed there and traveling abroad. It was awesome. I was like, man, this is actually not weird. A lot of people think so, but that's like, I bought this at a 7.7 interest rate, and a lot of people are like, oh, I wouldn't want to do that. I bought it 9.7, but this one, I don't pay a mortgage on it because all my tenants pay it. So it's like, What does it matter, right? And then you refinance later, you've acquired a property with a pool, which I never could afford when the market was down, got a new roof, closing costs paid for. So it's like, you gotta look past like the clouds and like see the opportunity and seize it.
I think that's really That's really good and really wise for our listeners, because a lot of people, I know myself included, kind of get stuck. And this is like a common term, the analysis paralysis, right? You're like
Yeah.
stuck in all the little tiny numbers and you can't really decide on, like you said, the bigger picture. But I love that, man. So tell us a little bit about that first property. And you said you were doing this while you were overseas and
Before we get into that, man, that's the meat of it. We got to kind of get into his life before real estate.
for sure. Tell us a little bit.
Whatever you guys want to talk about.
Yeah. No, this is
let's back it up and come back to that.
All right, back it up, Sam. Let's do it.
Yeah. Well, man, normally Will ask this question, but I'll go and kind of steal it away from him since I redirected. So yeah, tell us a little about life before real estate. How was your childhood? Did you go to college? We know you were in the Army, so yeah, let's hear about that.
Yeah, so I lived in Section 8 housing in Maryland, close to Baltimore. Really shitty neighborhood, but I guess it kind of gives you character, right? Molds you into who you are. It's like, I need to find a change, right? I can't live here forever. I need to make something happen. So went off to college. I went in for business initially and went through the ROTC program, so they paid for everything, but struggled. And because I partied a little bit and didn't take it too serious, but and so I switched over to communications, which is like not anything to brag about in my mind, right? It is, but for me it was kind of a letdown. But I got my degree, which allowed me to go into the military as an officer. So I went in as an infantry officer, which means I'm held at a higher standard of responsibility, in charge of more people, equipment, things like that. And so that was like an amazing experience for 11 years. I was a paratrooper, which is typically the harder path in the Army, because everything you think about hitting a target that's several countries away. You got to jump in, you got to plan for all your supply drops, you got to plan to assemble on the ground, which is really hard. Wind blows people everywhere, and then you got to be able to command and control a unit to hit an objective, right? So like that was like our life. And
wow.
But yeah, a lot of lessons learned along the way. Generally that's how my childhood was and some of my adulthood.
Nice. How many jumps do you have?
41. All static line.
Wow.
So the static line is what pulls the parachute from your pack tray is what they call it. So it, like, after you're supposed to count to 5-6 seconds and then it deploys your chute, then you have a reserve just in case that one doesn't deploy. But that static line I've seen it cut someone's hand off, it could cut your head off. Like, yeah. So you have to be very, very careful. And I was a jump master during that time. So I was like in charge of like exiting people out of the plane. I would literally have to hang out of the plane like this and look around, make sure there's no like flying projectiles. It was pretty crazy. But yeah, so I drank the Kool-Aid, man. And it was my life for 11 years. But then I decided, like, that 11th year, I was just like, this is not it. I'm still in debt, tons of debt. And I'm like, how am I in debt? And I'm a captain in the military. People are like, man, you're making so much money. And on the flip side of that, people were like, hey, you only got 9 years left. And in my mind, that's thinking small, because I got out with 100% disability. That's $4,000 right now, tax free, right? But the level of work that I had to do, the stress on my body, my mind, I was depressed, anxious, all these things that we kind of hide while we're in the military, because we got to look strong, be that leader, which is important. But it's damaging, it takes an effect on you. So for me, like, the amount of hours I was working, I was very much an alcoholic. It just, like, I saw the light and I was just like, I need to make something happen and change. So quickly shift gears from that point.
Thank you for being so open. What kind of led you in that light? And I guess kind of, were there some patterns, or was there something that really helped you propel to take in a different direction? I mean, a whole different lifestyle.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's in the airborne community, it's very demanding. It definitely helped me become a go-getter, for sure.
Sure.
Like anyone who served in any sort of capacity, they're different humans when they leave, because you're constantly being held like this is the standard, you're all the way up here, right? So like
It's life or death decisions, really, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
very very attention to detail. Any little
Yeah.
thing can get your battle buddy killed. So you really have to stay laser focused. But for me, it was kind of a toxic environment at times. Needed but toxic, and it's kind of hard to tread that line, right? You're training people for war, and then but you yourself are being held to the same, obviously to the same standard. I was constantly getting my shit pushed in all the time by my superiors, and I'm just like, man, this is like bullshit. Like I'm bending over backwards, and I met a lot of good people. I'm not ragging on the Army, but it is what it is for a reason, and it needs to be that way in a sense, right? But I just was like, man, there's got to be a way to make more money, spend less time, be less stressed out, have a little French bulldog that's sitting right there behind me, and then better quality of life, and that's what I wanted.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, definitely.
So
Wow.
man, who kind of inspired you to get into real estate? Like when did you decide real estate was a good idea?
I look back and I can't really pinpoint a person per se. I mean, in fact, two of my best friends, one of them has 4 degrees. And he just got a 5th degree maybe 2 years ago when we got out.
Wow.
3 to 4 years ago.
Love school.
Yeah, Fuqua. And I'm like, dude, like, how much debt do you have? But he got into Fuqua. I actually tried to get into Fuqua with him, tried to follow suit, and I was like, kind of glad that didn't happen. But good on him, right? He got his degree, and he was telling me, him and my other friend who has a finance degree was like, don't buy a house, don't do this, and like I'm like, look, I know these guys on these podcasts. Like I was listening to Bigger Pockets, some Airbnb podcasts like Live Let Thrive. I was listening to, reading books like Rich Dad Poor Dad. Everyone, you kind of research like, what were they inspired by? Maybe it can inspire me too. So I read that book and then listened to it on audio book like 2 or 3 times. I'm like, holy shit, like this something needs to change. And they were telling me I was dumb to buy a house. Like, you should not buy a house. I love these guys to death too. And I talk
well,
shit
that's
about
funny. The reason I'm over here kind of like having
Yeah.
a smirk on my face, laughing, is I'm like, now Josh has more houses than that guy has degrees.
with degrees. Yeah. And I got that first house at a 2.25 interest rate, right? Like what if I waited like everyone was telling me to do? And it's like you can't listen to everybody all the time. Especially
My biggest regret of the year that they were in the 2s was that I didn't buy a more expensive house.
Yeah, exactly.
That's my biggest regret of that year is that
you have tons of equity right now, right?
Like I wasted it on too cheap of a house. I should have bought a bigger one.
Yeah, I mean, I think that first house, I think I have about, just according to Zillow, and of course it's not super accurate, but I've actually made some upgrades to it, so it's not factoring that, but it's around 175 grand. I bought that, 6 years ago or so. So yeah,
you could have paid for a couple degrees with that.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
That's incredible. And yeah, no, nothing is cooler to me than when we have our guests on and then we kind of ask this question and it gets teed up and there's a couple regurgitating like topics which end up being listening to a podcast, getting interested, listening to Bigger Pockets, really kind of understanding Rich Dad Poor Dad. And it's pretty cool because we do these live for you guys to listen, and it's if you guys have listened to a number of the episodes now, you'll probably find this trend. So there might be something there,
Yeah.
But
I think Bigger Pockets or Rich Dad Poor Dad is 100% part of a real estate success equation because those are very common denominators in everybody's story.
Oh yeah, you got to. And I mean, one thing I kind of forgot about, and this is kind of gets a little dark, but it is what it is, right? That's what we're kind of here to share. And maybe someone's in the same situation, but
totally,
for me, during that depression and anxiety, I had a ranger buddy die. Like, this kid was, I think he was 19. But very young kid, carried him to the helicopter, and he was evac'd and pronounced dead, a few hours later. But it was nuts. Like, we were crossing a covert gap crossing is what it's called, but it's through a swamp. And we set up a rope bridge with all our equipment on, and it's supposed to be waterproofed and everything. So we're supposed to technically float. But anything can kind of, throw that off, right? And it's at night, right? So you got night vision on. You're trying to traverse through these waters. There's alligator, snakes, and not as many alligators, but there's a shit ton of snakes out there. So there's a lot of like environmental things, lack of food, sleep, all that, and people are just not paying attention. But yeah, so like after doing that, I went to a therapist, and I was like, should I feel like, what am I supposed to be feeling? And that's when it kind of clicked. I was like, this is normal. You are a person. You're not a robot. You're not built to be a robot. And so that was like what kind of switched in my brain, where it's like, man, am I like trying to be someone that I'm not? Like, I am like a very hardened individual when it comes to certain things, more so than others. But it doesn't mean that you have to be that way. And for you to pursue something that's different, and yeah, it's great to serve. Absolutely love my, fellow military members, kudos to all them. But like, once you punch in your clock, and you feel like you want to do something for yourself, don't feel like that's something that you're held back at. And you're like, man, I shouldn't do it because I got to do it for my country. It's like, no, they're going to replace you as soon as you leave, so by all means, punch your clock, get out if you want to do something else. So just some words of encouragement there.
No, there's definitely someone that needs to hear that. I know I need to hear that. There's lots of times where I'm like I don't know. I feel stuck, and
Yeah.
so being able to, feel reassured and have such awesome guests, share wisdom and words of encouragement, like you said, week to week is just awesome. So, and thanks for just being so open and candid and hopping on.
Yeah. I was actually going to say too, just for our area, I think that is, super great advice, just because, I think a lot of people who even enter the military kind of enter it as a spot to kind of like, because they don't know exactly what they want to do at the moment, but it's, it's a great job, a lot of security, a lot of benefits. And so they do that, but then, their eyes are opened at some point, and so like, I think it's really cool, kind of like you laying it out for people that, you were 11 years into your 20, but you decided that, you didn't need to go finish that 9, that you could, go ahead and pivot, which I think this is probably a good way to go ahead and transition it back to everything you guys were wanting to jump onto before, talking about the real estate today.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Thanks so much for your service too, and everything. But like that transition and the step that you had, what's life like today? We got to know how you grew up, past careers, being able to make the leap. But what are you doing day in and day out right now? Investments? What's your real estate look like? We know your forte is buying, renovating, room hacking, and Airbnb. So yeah, take it away.
Yeah, so I guess I have a couple different hats. As a realtor, as you mentioned, Sam, about 3 years in, I was with Coldwell initially, and I was a rookie of the nation, actually, for the first year. Number one agent in the office with over 100 agents, and decided to move.
I could have said that in the shout out.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I just wasn't thinking about it.
Be a super agent here. Just throwing that out for.
I appreciate that. No, yeah. So I mean, it was a crazy time, and jumped right in. And it was one of those things. It's like, holy shit, I'm not getting a paycheck every single 2 weeks, or every month. It's I gotta go hunt and eat every day, and so that kind of drove me. But so did that. Now I'm with EXP Realty because I just see the many different ways that you could gain passive income, more passive and additional streams. You still have to work for it initially, but over time that becomes passive, which is awesome. And that's why I jumped over to EXP. So if you guys want any more information on that, definitely reach out. But we started a team recently, and it's called the Legacy Group. And it's with Steve Philpott, who also came from Coldwell Banker. We're super excited about it. It's less than a month old. We've got 3 members so far with him and I, one signing up this week and another signing up next week. But we're super pumped about it. So that is going to continue to grow. I'd love for that to grow to about 10 members by, a year from now. Because we want to pick the right people. If we're just focused on growing, then I'd want to grow to 20, and then I'd be like, yeah, but I don't want just random people. I've ran a team with, individuals that, just had other priorities. I'm paying for leads and no one's calling them. I'm like, all right. So I took those leads away, dissolved that team. Steve and I started this team within like a week. Right. And I started calling those same leads, and I got one under contract. And then another one is, we put an offer in yesterday. Right. So I'm like, don't tell me these leads don't work. You just don't want it. Right. So
Sure.
that's a big thing. With the Airbnb management. So we say Airbnb because it's like the common phrase, but short-term rentals is what I say, because I use a property management software that pushes all of my listings, all 16 right now. 17 actually, I just left today. We're getting that one onboarded, but all of those will go on, Airbnb, booking.com, Verbo. I'm a premier host on Verbo. As well as a super host on Airbnb. I've got my own direct booking websites where we can save people money when they travel, and we can also save some of the costs on the hosting side, right? And we've got dynamic pricing tools, we've got cleaning software, we use like owner statements for tax purposes and things like that. It's different software for that. So it's a lot of integrated tools and stuff for our PMS that we manage all of our properties on, but day to day, I'm working to get virtual assistants to take over my job as a property manager, right? I'm still going to keep a pulse on it and probably hold weekly meetings and talk to my cleaning manager a lot, but that's going to be something I want to put, second position, and then continue to grow like the real estate side. So that's kind of like what I'm focused on now.
That's awesome. What's that software you use that puts it out on Airbnb and VRBO and all the platforms?
So there's several. The one I use is called Guesty. It's like guest with a Y. And then okay. Yeah. And then there's Hospitable, and there's a bunch of them. And they're all pretty good. I haven't had any experience other than Guesty, but I'm super happy with Guesty.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And then remember, guys, this is just live, just little hacks, cheat codes that we get, and that our guests are open to say. We don't endorse any of these, but Guesty, I'm definitely going to check that out. Do you think there were any big shortcuts that you could help, or people helped you? Like, just hopping in and becoming a super host and a premier host isn't easy. What are some of those things that you think could propel maybe some of our listeners who want to kind of do what you do?
Yeah, I mean, the first step is just doing it, right? A lot of times we just talk ourselves out of it, and then we don't even get that first property. Now that property a year, 2 years down the road is worth 10, 15, 20 grand more,
Sure.
maybe more than that, right? So like getting in as soon as a wise person once told me, like, the best time to buy was 10 years ago. The second best time to buy is now, or as soon as you can afford it, right? Because real estate is it's pretty much a sure thing. I mean, nothing's 100% a sure thing, but it's pretty sure, right? In my book, at least. And so,
as long as you get a long enough time outlook, it usually always goes up. If you look at years and beyond, you usually never can lose on a 10-year and long real estate investment.
Yeah. They're waiting on a market crash. I'm like, the dip already happened. The market's going back up. Like it's going to continue to go up, over the next 10 years or so, and then it's going to dip again. But, so like for the listeners out there that are thinking about getting into this, you got to be proactive. Just understand you're not going to have all the cards and all, everything, the wind blowing in your direction, like when you decide to pull the trigger, because you'll never pull it. If that's the case, you're going to learn everything, like so much more as you're doing it, so listening to podcasts, like watching YouTube videos, there's plenty of guys out there that I'm terrible with names, but if you just Google, Airbnbs and like cheat codes for that, like you'll be able to find a bunch of resources on YouTube. So like I fully immersed myself into that. I wanted to make sure that I was making a wise decision and it wasn't something that, I was going to regret later. And, 4 years down the road, I still don't. I've got almost 1,200 reviews with a 4.93 star rating, out of 5. So pretty good. And and there's a lot of people that didn't review me because some people are just lazy or they just don't know. Right. So just get in when you can and as soon as you can. And then if you're worried about making payments and things like that, get a roommate and then try Airbnb just one room, right? You can do one long-term roommate or maybe two if you got a 4-bedroom, and then that fourth bedroom could be an Airbnb that you're just testing, right? And that's what I did my first time, and I was like, holy shit, this is February of 2022. I just Airbnb this room and I made $1,200. And I'm like, that was almost my mortgage, right? At the time, it was like $1,500, I think. The next month, I was like, immediately after I took out the office, like the desk, I'm like, my desk can go over here. Completely different. I Airbnb.
My bedroom.
Yeah, my desk is in my bedroom. You know what I mean? So like I maximize those spaces and rooms and then the second month was March and I like made double my mortgage, So and then that same year, and this is while I was still in the military, it was like August and I made $12,500 from one guest in 1 month.
Man.
Right? Checked them in. They were older. They had like some sort of flooding or something that happened with their house. So it was an insurance thing. And so if you get into that insurance market too, and you become a preferred vendor, that's also a really, really good like thing to kind of be privy to and have those people in your corner. But I showed them around, and I usually don't. It's self-check-in, but they were older, and I'm like, yeah, here's a washer dryer. Feel free to use this. Like, backyard fire pit, whatever. And they were super grateful. They slept there maybe 3 nights because I had my Ring camera outside, and I was like, man, it's kind of weird. Like they're not even here. Barely had to clean up anything, and I have cleaners to do that, obviously. But
and you made how much money?
It was like 12.5 in 1 month in August, and I was just like,
that is nuts.
How did you get into the insurance? Like how did you find them? They find you? Tell us how that worked. I need notes as well as for the guests.
No, you're good. They're looking too, right? They're on Airbnb and looking and stuff. And so I should have capitalized when I was speaking to someone that was coordinating that and saying, hey, I want to be your preferred vendor. I didn't. And then like looking back, I'm like, dang, where's that guest? But that was, 3-4 years ago.
Right.
And so, but yeah, they just reached out to me and was like, hey, can we book? You guys mind? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And then you could say, hey, you could book on my direct booking website and save some money too. And then I could make money. That's another hack. And then but you also have to have insurance for yourself for that, like damage waiver protection.
Sure.
Just because Airbnb is not going to cover you if something happens. Right. So, yeah, there's a lot of little hacks, but yeah, that was one of the main reasons I was like, yeah, I'm done with the military. Aside from the others, that was like the icing on the cake. I was like, yeah, I'm out.
Totally.
And actually, I do want to highlight for our listeners real quick, because you just brought up something that is a good educational point. So Josh has reached a point where he likes to do a lot of listings through his own website without using Airbnb or VRBO. And that's great because you do save a lot. There's a lot of people don't realize that Airbnb does take a pretty good chunk of the booking fee. Now, the flip side, the reason I kind of tell people that Airbnb is great for people starting out is because that insurance that they have really covers you. And I've replaced a sliding glass door, an 8-foot slider, a couple $1,000 replacement. Will knows that story. That was on a previous.
Yeah.
They fully paid for that. I've done a whole sleeper sofa, $1,200 couch. They replaced that. So I just wanted to kind of lay that out. This was just a good point to, like I said, Josh says, if you do it on his website, he has the insurance to cover it, and that's a good way to do it. But again, if you're just starting out, then I recommend you doing it through one of the platforms that does cover you. So anyway, turn it back over.
But great hack, right? As you're excelling and coming in. And one of my favorites right there is for beginners. If you're not ready to do full Airbnb, I loved how you said you were house hacking, and renting per room, permanent roommates, and then you had one room that you just tried out, which ended up, like you said, almost paying the whole mortgage just by the one room. So what a cool story, and way that really anyone can get involved, even if you're like slightly unsure about Airbnb or short-term rentals specifically, and you want to have long-term tenants to have that, confidence that mortgage is going to be paid month to month. But I really loved all of those little hacks, and so that was from beginner to advanced, I would say, running your own bookings and your own booking website. So that's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then tell us what's your plan for the next 12 months in real estate? Like what are you going to be, what's the goals for this year?
Yeah, I mean, one big thing is like just being consistent, right? So like this year I still plan to, I mean, this past year, so 2024, every year I want to buy 2 rentals. This year I'm just buying the one, and it's going to be a primary. So every house I buy is going to be a rental because I'm going to do the same thing, so I don't have to pay my mortgage, right?
So you never sell anything. We've had a couple episodes. Okay. Kind of toggling between like, oh, I could sell this. Like you said, you have almost $200,000 of equity in one of them, or if you just want to continue, obviously you have awesome Airbnb and short-term rental experience. So it doesn't really make sense to sell for you.
Right. Yeah. I mean, every year I'm more of a buy and hold guy, but like if I were to sell, it'd be after I've owned it for about 5 years, let that equity really, really grow. I did have to sell one of the 6 that I have. So I have 5 personal ones. And actually, Sam, I forgot to mention this. One of those houses is a long-term rental. That's the one I bought subject to. I don't know if you're kind of familiar with that term, but yeah. So like that was
but maybe for the listeners, if you want to talk
if you want to break it out, it's
we haven't had anyone had
the current mortgage, so
yeah. So like it's like, hey, if the sellers they're not able to sell it and cover their expenses and everything, they're pretty much gonna have to pay to sell it. It's a good opportunity to talk to the seller and say, hey, I'd be willing to buy this from you. I could give you $5,000, $10,000. It beats you like one having to default on your mortgage if you're struggling to make the payment. But 2, like if you need to get out of it, like you can actually leave and then have some cash in hand. And then you, on the other hand, like they carry the mortgage. So the mortgage is still in their name. You don't notify the lender and say, hey, there was a sale. And you tell the insurance company like, hey, this, I'm the property manager, which I am the property manager. I'm going to be, first or second lien position. I'm first lien position. The sellers are second lien position. And then, obviously the mortgage company is on there as well. And then they're like, yep, good to go. I just get power of attorney. And now I'm covered as the actual owner. And I'm not raising any due on sale clauses or anything. And now that the long-term tenants in there, they're making me about $250 a month. And, I bought it probably $60K under what it's valued at. And so I've got some good equity in that one now too.
Nice.
Since you did get that one subject to, what interest rate did you nab it at?
That one, I want to say that one was 4.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah. Still way better than today.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And everything
it's not in my name too. The mortgage lease.
So, and tell people why that might be advantageous and how you can acquire properties a little bit quicker. I know that you said you had 5 in your name. Currently it's 8, right? That kind of taps out. You can have 8 independent mortgages somewhere, depending on your DTI and whatever happens with the lenders. But is it 10 that can be maxed out?
Oh, sorry, say that again.
How many personal mortgages can you have? I thought it was 10.
I mean, honestly, I've never heard of a like you being capped at somewhere. It all kind of depends on your DTI.
Right.
Yeah, you can have so many conventionals and FHAs, but then after that, you can get an endless DSCR, mortgages.
Yeah. Yeah. So you can use different loan products to kind of like, you just got to be creative, and subject to is another way. DSCR, if like for me, when I got out of the military, I didn't have 2 years of tax returns, so I couldn't use my VA loan. Once this is going to be the first year that I'm going to be able to use my VA loan with 2 tax returns since I've left the military.
Nice.
So I'm like really excited to not put anything down and get a cheaper interest rate.
Yeah, awesome. That's
But yeah,
exciting.
and the VA's actually kind of evolved in a sense. They used to be like, hey, you can buy a house. It's capped at like 750, 600, whatever it was, and then it kind of went up. But virtually, like, I mean, it's really for me. I don't truly understand it, but like from what I kind of understand, it's like there is no limit for that first house. Like you can buy something as long as it's like within reason and your credit scores reasonable, right? You can't have like a 500 credit score and buy
Yeah.
like $1 million property, but they're pretty flexible with that. So there's no hard line, but like if someone has like personal things that are affecting their credit and things like that, then that may
Yeah,
hinder
sure.
them. But
Sure.
virtually, like, starting fresh, like the world is your oyster. If, you want to get in and not have like, you can kind of have like the flexibility, but I would definitely recommend talking to a lender to
Yeah,
get more
definitely.
info on that. Yeah. I'm not licensed as a lender. So
Yeah. But going back to what you are being, tell us a little bit about EXP and kind of your change there, and why you made that change, which kind of will tee up like what's the lifetime goal, end goal kind of look like for you, not necessarily as a realtor, just in general.
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy. Like I was asked, this was after my second year at Coldwell. I was asked to speak on a stage on a panel, right? And with three other agents, killer agents, really, really good people. Love the community there. It was incredible. It was thousands of people in that auditorium. I met Shaq. I was over the moon when I
Awesome.
got, yeah,
Jeez.
like his hand was like, bigger than my, like all this, right? So like I I was over the moon. I had a great time there, and then I talked to an investor friend, and I noticed that a lot of EXP guys were investors, right? They were going to these different meetups, and I'm like, there's got to be something interesting about that. But I was like, Coldwell banker till I die, and then he's like, just let me talk to you for 10 minutes, and he pitched me, and I was like, this was right before Gen Blue. Which was a big Coldwell banker thing. And I met Shaq and all that and spoke, and it was awesome. But I told my broker before I went, I was like, I'm going to leave Coldwell banker. And I'm sure more than likely, I told her that wasn't definite, but more than likely. And so got back next day, put in my ticket and was like, hey, I'm getting out. I'm so sorry. Thank you so much for everything you've done. I gave her like 2 weeks prior to Gen Blue, and I gave her that heads up. So it wasn't like, hey, I'm out, and I did it in person, not breaking up over text. And the reason why is because I ran a spreadsheet. I love spreadsheets, and I left about 86 grand on the table each year that I could have made, right? And this is like $36,000 in stock, and like, so like this year it's not even a full year yet, and I've made about 36 grand in stock, right? So that's one aspect of it. The other aspect of it, there's no franchise fees and office fees. Go ahead.
Because EXP is publicly traded, right? Like a lot of people might not know that.
Yep, they are on the NASDAQ. And so, you're getting stock doing something that you're already doing, right?
Yeah.
Like why not do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, you're not paying a 6% franchise fee. You're not paying all these office fees because everything's virtual. And everyone kind of looks at that and they're like, oh, I don't know. And I'm like, I bet you I could talk to my broker way faster than you can talk to your broker, because I just go into EXP World on my phone and they're sitting in their office, like, and they're ready to talk to me. Right. So, some added advantages from that aspect and misconceptions as well, but also the rev share is really what was like blew my mind. Glenn Sanford, the owner, was like, hey, I am going to pour more money into my agents to help me like recruit and train our agents. Right. So like, as you're like, you bring on agents and, you want them to be successful instead of just bringing them on. And it's like, all right, good luck. If they're successful, like EXP pays you what we call rev share, and there's different percentages. So I can have like 100 agents that I brought on that I'm collecting rev share, and there's a cap. As soon as they cap, like the most I can get is like 2,600 or something like that per agent, right? But if they bring on people, right, I'm getting money from what they bring on. And if they bring on people, I don't even know who these people are. That's 3 levels. I'm collecting rev share, right? And then 4, 5, 6, 7. right? And so like if you're just crushing it and you're naturally attracting people and then you're helping them grow, you're getting paid for that. Whereas like other brokerages, you're not. Like they're just like, you know, you get a Starbucks gift card or something. So that is my retirement as I grow my team. Like a lot of team leaders would be like, I don't want you to leave my team because I'm going to stop making money, right? Selfishly, that's what a lot of people say. And I didn't really like that model and would never want to be a team leader outside of EXP. But EXP, it's like, hey, no, I want you to join my team. I'm going to train you for the tools. Yes, it's going to come at a cost because leads aren't free. Training, like our time isn't free. Everyone gets paid for, you know, to work, right?
Sure.
So we're going to train you. We're going to make you the best agent you possibly can be. And then if you want, we're going to teach you how to be a team leader. We're going to teach you how to effectively run a team and then build your retirement, you know, by helping other people. So it's not like I'm just going to take advantage and then like have all this extra money coming in. No, I'm training these agents and helping them see the light. And then they're going to go and like be the best they can be and like attract other agents and train them, do the same thing as me. So it's a no-brainer in my book. And then you're just getting stock as well. Like, you know, it's like, and then eventually the goal here is like, I don't ever have to sell real estate. I can simply just like, eventually it's like, I'm not working with buyers anymore. I'm going to give those to my agents. I'm just working with listings, right? Boom. Then I do the listings. I do all the meetings with the sellers. Cause that's like kind of the higher level of being a realtor. Like it takes a little bit more expertise. And then eventually I'm not even going to do listings. I'm just going to give them to my agents. And then I'm just going to do podcasts like you do, Sam, or like coaching or something, you know? And then I pay for consultations and things like that. And like team building, whatever else. And then like, maybe I write a book, like who knows? Right. So like,
I love it.
If you're thinking on that level, that's where like, you know, everything makes sense. But if you're thinking on like a level where it's like, I just like, you know, want to sing Kumbaya in an office with other people, and you go to the office, you realize there's no one in the office. Like you're the only one at the meetings. Everything is digital now, you know, like, so those are my, like, long story short, that's kind of like why I left, and I, you know, absolutely love it a year in.
No, that's amazing. So it sounds like it plays all into your end game too.
Yeah, because I can help people, and like you guys kind of mentioned, like I can help people acquire a property. I can tell them what I look for when I buy an Airbnb or long-term rental, any sort of property, right? And then you know, help them. I don't need to manage it. Like I prefer, like I want to grow, but like I'm like, I don't have everything in place to grow that quick. It's going to take time. I'd rather just teach you guys how to manage your own property and be profitable, because that's your biggest cost is going to be management outside of like cleaning, you know?
Dude, that's awesome. And actually, you know, I kind of had this epiphany while I was listening to you talk. And so, you know, like Will said, you know, we're just kind of observers on the sideline, and we like to kind of call things out as we see it, but we're not endorsing anyone's, you know, products or anything per se. But one thing, when you were talking about EXP, and I've heard this basically through a lot of EXP people, Matt Gardner is a mutual friend we have.
He's my sponsor.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Nice.
Yeah. And 2 lines up.
It really kind of dawned on me that it seems like so many people in the EXP compared to other brokerages are really about helping people. And then I see a lot more investor agents in EXP. And I don't know if that's a coincidence or if it's actually, you know, part of like the you know, the mantra and the beliefs of EXP, but it's something I've definitely noticed that just seems like EXP you know, agents are just that much more, you know, trying to reach out, help people, and then, you know, help shift people over to being, you know, investors and stuff. So it's
yeah. I mean, it's all really about numbers, you know. It's all about numbers, and if you're working on your business, so you're pulled out, you're not working in your business, like you need to take a second every time there's a lull. Like right now, it's like it's not as busy as it used to be. If you're not analyzing your business and saying like, hey, am I like leaving money on the table somewhere? Like I love my brokerage, but at the end of the day, it's my business. Like I need to figure out what's best for me. And then you crunch those numbers, and you gotta be able to have the hard conversation where it's like, hey, I'm sorry, but like this better fits my business. And once you look at it from a numbers perspective, like it's a no-brainer. It's like they could have offered me 50 grand to stay there and I wouldn't have taken it, because long term, it's not like I want to be good when, 10 years from now, you know what I mean? I don't want to
Mhm.
have to continue to sell. That 50 grand is going to come and go,
Sure.
Right.
so
Well, no,
Sam, are you
it
thinking what I'm
definitely.
thinking or what?
What going
say that
on?
again.
Favorite books
Oh
or
no,
what?
I was thinking about joining EXP.
Oh yeah, dude,
Hey, I
EXP's
like Will's like thinking.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with that. That if you're looking at being a realtor, I would give EXP a strong look. And actually, now that we have Josh here on the show, once he gives his info, y'all should all take that down because he can sponsor you guys.
Totally.
So yeah. But yeah, actually, since I did bring up the books, though, what are your top 3 favorite books that you think had the biggest impact on you to get you where you are today?
Yeah, so the Rich Dad Poor Dad was definitely, one of those. And
Mhm.
and there's so much that you can learn from that. And one of the big things from that book was the pay yourself first.
Mhm.
That's something that, I mean, you learn a lot in that book, but right now that phrase is resonating with me so much because I'm reading the book Profit First. Have you guys heard of that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Mike McAllowitz? Yeah, I'm
Mhm.
I'm I'm actually implementing that through like Relay, right? So like I've always heard that in the back of my mind, Robert saying that, and I'm like, man, what the heck does he mean? Like I guess I kind of get it. You pay yourself first, but you got all these expenses and stuff, and your sales minus expenses equal your profit. Well, 4% of entrepreneurs aren't and businesses aren't profitable, right? So like, how do you do that? And so, I'm like halfway through that book and I'm like already implementing a lot of the stuff. So that is like my number 2 for sure. Number 3, I'm actually kind of stuck, to be honest. I should be, reading a lot more books than I have, but probably a Brandon Turner book. Um,
Okay.
there's several of the Brandon Turner books that I've like read about getting
Someone
into real
doesn't know
estate with little.
someone doesn't know who Brandon Turner is. He is the man, the myth, the legend from Bigger Pockets.
Yeah.
He's probably the guy we all fell in love with the Bigger Pockets podcast for. Great author stuff. Like I said, I love reading his material. I don't know him personally, but great stuff. But go on, Josh. Which one's this?
Yeah, I'm having trouble recalling the name of that one, but I think it was something along the lines of getting into real estate with little to no money down. So if you're,
You're talking about? I think
yeah,
actually that's really close to what the name is. Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
it's somewhere in there. And I mean that was like, yeah, I don't have a ton of money. Like, how do I do it? So that title alone just kind of captured me. But David Green has a book, and that was actually I went on a retreat like less than a month ago, and I was like, man, I'm gonna get back into reading. So I have one of David Green's book on my shelf here. Don't
It's
ask me
the
the title of it,
Burr
but
book. I got David Green's Burr book.
oh
That was
yeah.
my favorites. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, you just always gotta, keep like knowledge is big, right? And don't overthink it. You definitely have to be knowledgeable and do some research prior to getting into something as big as real estate. But you're gonna learn a lot on the journey, and try not to overthink it. Definitely for those out there in the audience.
So, which kind of leads up to my next question. What's some advice you'd give to someone starting today if they wanted to do exactly what you do outside of getting started today? Because
Yeah.
I totally agree.
Yeah. I mean, so one of the big things that's helped me is being around the right people, right?
Mhm.
If you're around, like, so I grew up just outside of Baltimore, just a completely different mindset there. If I go back and we have conversations about this, it's like nothing's clicking, right? It's like people, and I'm not saying everybody from there is like that, but in my neighborhood growing up, it sure felt like that. It was like kind of like you're trapped, right?
Mhm.
So it's so easy to be that, to be a victim, to be like, oh, that's not for me. It's just because of my search situation and circumstances. So like number one is like, look at your friends, because that's who you're going to be. If
Totally.
you're around a bunch of people that all they do is sit around, smoke weed, drink, and like watch TV and stuff, and that's it, they don't have goals or ambitions, and that's who you're going to be.
Mhm.
So like going into investor meetups, like your local investor meetups, I like REIG, where Sam, I missed your when you spoke there, but I've seen you there a few times. Real
Yeah.
Estate Investor Group in Fort Walton Beach, Florida.
Yeah.
um,
That's Heather Blatz. We've actually had her on the show. So
oh, cool.
her episode will be airing pretty, or would have aired a little bit before this one. But yeah, that's actually I think whenever she came on, I gave her the shout out as that's the best meetup group I've ever been to that doesn't cost any money.
Yeah, it's free. You get free pizza there. It's like, man, like what do you know? So
Yeah, and
yeah,
there's
that
a lot of great people in the room. You know, you being
100%.
so
Yeah. Yeah,
um,
you meet people there and you're like, man, like now I've got a new business partner. I've got someone that kind of piqued my interest in something that I never would have thought before. You just meet so many people that are like-minded that can really energize you as a person. Whereas like when I was home just playing basketball, on the streets, it's like it's a dead end thing, like, for a lot of people. So being around the right people, going to the right, like educating yourself through books and podcasts and YouTube, and then being around the right people. You can certainly find like mentors. I think Airbnb has a program where it's like you can be a mentor or an ambassador is I think what they call it. They could certainly reach out to me. So a lot of people, I help them get their Airbnb started. I walk through their properties and like all they have to do is click a link. Airbnb pays me. So it's like it's
That's
free.
awesome.
You know?
Where would someone find that link?
So I could shoot it to them directly. So
Cool.
once you start your Airbnb profile, you can go to your profile and you can say, "Hey, I've got a friend who wants to start Airbnb. Share your link with them," and you click it, copy and paste. So
Sweet.
yeah, but I'll definitely give all my information out for people to follow and reach out to me if they need a ambassador for sure.
yeah.
Definitely. Where would they find you, or
Yeah.
where's best?
I think the best place to find me. So I have multiple Instagram handles. My real estate handle is _ Ronin, RONIN, realtor. And then the other Airbnb one, I'm not as active, but I still do post on it, is Ronin.stays, STAYS.
Sweet. Cool.
Awesome. And then what's the website if someone wanted to book one of your places directly?
Yeah.
Yep, it's www.roninstays.com.
Ronin stays. I love it.
Yep.
I love it.
Cool. And are most of your properties in Navarre, Fort Walton, Destin, mixed?
Yeah, most of mine are. So I'm getting ready to get into the Destin market. That's my goal here within the next few years. But the only areas really that they allow, and there's a few like condos and stuff, but I'm not a big condo fan, to be honest. And like the only houses proper that you can really
I'm
rent
actually
out.
going to insert that in Florida, you should avoid condos because
Yes.
the HOAs will kill you after that building collapsed a few years ago. So I highly recommend avoid a condo for any kind of rental property in Florida. It's just a time bomb when they're going to hit you with that fee.
Totally.
Exactly. Yeah, no, for sure. That's why I avoid condos at all costs. So like the only houses really in Destin, like you got to, for the most part, have to be south of 98. So those are multi-million-dollar properties. You know what I mean? So everything that I do is from Gulf Breeze to I've got one duplex in Niceville, but really Navarre to Fort Walton Beach is where I like to concentrate at. But I'm a little bit outside of that.
Okay.
Perfect.
No, that's great. And so anyone who's listening, I mean, Fort Walton to Gulf Breeze, that area, it's a real great area along the coast. Navarre Beach is one of my favorite beach communities in the Panhandle. Yeah, it's not as crowded as Pensacola Beach or Destin or PCB. Way less crowded. Beach is beautiful, and then Navarre Beach has a stretch. I don't want to say how many miles. I think it's 7, but it might be even longer than that. But of undeveloped beach, you'll never see anything else like it as far as where you can just go and walk the beach for miles without any development. So definitely recommend staying in one of his places where you can go enjoy Navarre Beach.
It's Florida's best kept secret.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, Sam, I do want to thank our sponsors, Clean Eats. As always, they allow us to have really cool guests.
Love the food.
So good. So good.
Yeah.
So Sam, where are all the locations that we can check a good Clean Eats at?
So Clean Eats as a company, there's over 100 open franchise locations, but my locations are in Mobile, Alabama, Pensacola, Florida, Shalimar, Florida, and Tallahassee, Florida. So if you're in one of those areas, please stop in and dine in our cafe. We got amazing meal prep options through our meal plans and grab and goes. So definitely come see us at Clean Eats or check us out at cleaneats.com. But
No doubt.
Will, where can people find you and find us?
Yeah. On the eliterealestatepodcast.com, you'll find awesome episodes with awesome guests, just like we had today. No doubt. Appreciate you and your time and all your expertise from every level, really, cheat codes at every level. And also you can find me on Instagram, which is REIFL.W.McClelland, like William McClelland. And then mine is not nearly as cool as where I can find Sam. Sam, where can I find you at?
Yeah, you can find me at Sam_Florida Man on Instagram. So just remember the Florida Man, Sam_Florida Man. And then like Will said, check out EliteRealEstatePodcast.com. We are everywhere podcasts can be heard, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Josh, dude, this was a great episode. I want to actually even give you an extra shout out. This was like a perfectly timed one, I think, too. So, man, you definitely shared a lot of knowledge. I respected you before this, just as what you do as far as being a realtor and super host, but 11 years of service. I'm grateful.
Thank you.
We have people like you that make that sacrifice. Yeah, dude, I think you shared a lot of knowledge today that will definitely be able to help somebody follow your footsteps and be successful. So, man, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys. Thanks so much again for having me. You guys are phenomenal. I absolutely love what you guys are doing. I know you're going to help a lot of people out. Kind of envy the knowledge that you guys are all getting, because I'm sure you meet a lot of cool people from different backgrounds that have just a lot of little awesome things to share, but I'll definitely check out your guys' podcast and
you learn everything we're learning. Just follow this. Let's start episode. But man, look, don't worry. I've already taken the note that you want to get in the Destin market. So when Will and I find a great lot in Destin for us to build a vacation rental on, we're going to be calling you up because, like I said, we're always looking for good people that have aligned interests and. Man, we definitely like what you're doing with the short-term rental space and the rent by the room thing. I think that's just I definitely don't want that to be ignored in this episode because I know there was a lot of good stuff. But I think the rent by the room thing is something that anyone can take advantage of right now. Will was a house hacker. This is kind of like a house hacking on steroids. So I know he really liked the idea. I love it.
It was awesome.
Anybody starting out today. It can definitely do well with Josh's plan of Written by the Room. So if you want to learn more about that, I definitely recommend you reach out to Josh directly. He's definitely here to help people. He can assist you as a realtor. He can manage a rental for you. So definitely go check out his website and his Instagram. But dude, thank you so much for coming and doing the show with us, man. We appreciate your time.
All right, guys. Appreciate it. Looking forward to doing it again in like a year.
Yeah. We are too.
All right.
We'll see you soon.
Cool. See you guys. Good to meet you, Will.
Yeah, pleasure.
All right.